Hello and welcome back to the GorillaBiker, and today what we're going to be doing is bleeding the brakes on the Valkyrie, taking the brakes off, inspecting them, removing the brake lines because we're prepping it for new brake lines, and we'll also remove the brake master cylinder, and I'll do a separate video on rebuilding the brake master cylinder because I know that's something that people want to see. So we're going to do it, but first and foremost, the Valkyrie, which is, oh yeah, right there. It actually is on a Pittsburgh motorcycle slash ATV jack stand thingamajig from Harbor Freight. The rear wheel is still on the ground, so I'm not worried about falling off. But yeah, that's what we're going to do. So I'm only going to show you obviously bleeding one side because I don't think you need to see the whole lot. That would be a bit silly. But I'm going to show you as much as I can. The autofocus on my camera is a pain in the booty hole. So first and foremost, what we're going to do is you want to try get your... Oh, that's useful. You turn your handlebars the whole way to the left. It actually does... get the reservoir flat. Now these screws are just a little bit muntered, so I think I have. So what we're going to do is just jab in a little bit of. Okay, they're not wanting to move. Tools are cheating generally, but having a hammer action drill. Oh, I'll have to find that later. Don't know where it went. Having a hammer action drill is a really good cheat code, I have to say. One that I enjoy. So I always check the underside of these because it kind of tells you how things are looking. And obviously this brake fluid has seen better days. Now, what I'm going to do here is peel this back. Oh, some dust fell out. That is never good. What I generally like to do is pull most of the fluid out with like a syringe and something to put it into. Cucina Moderna, by the way, it was quite tasty. So literally, we're just gonna, well, Cucina Moderna. Ooh, this is nasty. Look. Okay, that is some of the most disgusting brake fluid I have ever seen. It is absolutely horrendous. Now, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop a little bit of this back in. Because I do want enough in there to do something, and we can suck it back out. And just to show you, this is the diaphragm for the brake. You can see this kind of scum and crap on it. You never want your brake fluid to look like that. It's not a good place to be. So right now I'm just leaving everything to one side. By the way, that white thing that's floating in the reservoir, that's not a usual thing. I have actually never personally seen that before. But I'm pretty certain what it is for... you know, trying to show you the level a bit better of the fluid, because that's something that I think people often struggle to see in the sight glass. So it's a good idea, you know. What you'll also probably see is that left fork has leaked. I think that's when it was in transport. So I'm not overly concerned about that. We'll be able to get that fixed at a later date. Now, the reason I didn't want to bleed out all that fluid yet is I actually want to pop these calipers off. And because I don't have the tool I used to have for pulling out the... I need to get a little seat for in here, you know that? I'm getting too old. Oh, yeah, for all this kneeling down. But essentially, I want to push the pistons out just by using... my words are failing me, just by using the kind of remaining pressure that's in the brake system. So that's what we're going to be doing. Just while it's on there, I'm going to make sure that I'll be able to get that banjo bolt loose. So I'll nip it back up. So just to show you what I've done there, I have loosened 1 bolt, 2 bolt, and I loosened this and then re-pinched it, but that's just to make sure that I'll be able to, how do you put it? Actually loosen it in a minute, because if it's obviously it's sitting unsupported, it would make it more difficult. That's your speedo sensor, so you don't want to damage that, because then you'd have to replace it. So you can see here, I am completely jammed on to the disc. You could, of course, bleed this slightly, which is probably the better way to do it. That would generally release some of the pressure, but I'm not going to do that today. And there we go. So what I usually do with this, and hopefully you can see, is I will pop out. Oh, I forgot to loosen that off, didn't I? I did. I'm a silly goose. I am a silly goose. So I'm going to slide that back on, if it'll go back on. Hammer action wins again. So that's the pin that holds the pads in. Also, I'll show you all this afterwards as well. Right now, I'm just trying to disassemble this a bit. So there's my pads out, which look in terrible condition. They look like they've definitely had plenty of fork oil on them, which is never nice. The pistons actually don't look bad. You know, they might be okay with a bit of cleaning. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to repeat what I just did on the other side. That is taking off the other caliper. And the reason I'm going to do that is because essentially what I'm going to try to do is squeeze my... Why does this never focus anymore? This camera is a pain these days. It does not want to focus. Okay, now it's focusing on the wheel. No, focus here, please. No, okay, it really just does not want to focus, I'm sorry. But basically those 2 pistons there, what I'm going to do is also remove the other caliper in the exact same manner, and then I'm going to squeeze this a few times to get those pistons to pop out as much as I can before I drain the system. So I will be back when we're ready to give it a couple of squeezes. So I got myself into a situation, but happily Toaster did come to my aid. What I have done here, so one of the pistons was moving, none of the rest of them were. So I've just blocked them all up with the 2 pads. What I want to do is try to get them all out to the same thing. So what I'm going to do is pull the handle up here, like so. And now what you're seeing, if you come back down here, is the rest of the pistons, well, still only one side, so I'm hoping when they jam up, there you go, the other side is now moving. So that one's going to jam up. And then the last one is moving. And what that does is basically, it means that all the pistons are now freed up and moving. And not only are they freed up and moving, I might be able to pull them out without a piston removal tool. And also what I can do, by the way, I know people are probably cringing, but I'm going to paint this. I don't like this color, so I don't really care if I scratch it, which I haven't scratched it, by the way. What was I saying? But yeah, now I can actually, since those pads are jammed in there, I can actually bleed those 2 calipers as well. So we're gonna do that next. Thank you, Toaster. Everyone say thank you, Toaster, for coming when I cried for help. I really wish I had a full-time camera person, because it would make things so much easier. Okay, in my wisdom, I'm actually just gonna pop the banjo bolts off and spray as much out as I can of the brake fluid into this oil pan I have down there. I will say, genuinely though, one of the best investments I've made recently is that little hammer action drill. So all I'm going to do is pop the calipers off, if I can. Hopefully I didn't tighten these back up too much. There we go. Sometimes thinking ahead, Michael, is good. That is a mental noise. I have never, ever heard a brake system make that noise before. Okay, so there doesn't seem to be anything left that wants to come out of there, which is good. So essentially, the only reason I'm doing this way as well is because all of these brake lines and whatnot are going. I'm not keeping any of it. Otherwise, usually I would obviously do this a lot differently, which I have done other videos on, and I will link up somewhere. So that's the two calipers removed, and now all I'm going to do is pull whatever I can out of this. Oh. Oh, that is truly some of the nastiest fluid I have ever seen. Okay, so now we're over here with the calipers, and I'm just going to try pop these pads out, and I'll show you the difference between pads that have been destroyed by brake fluid and not. So these are a little bit tighter, but just to show you the difference, okay? And this is why it is really important not to let this happen. So this one here, no fork oil. This one has fork oil. So just to give this, you can see that that's not even coating it. That's actually embedded into it. Like this pad is destroyed and it will never work properly again. I don't know, is the color difference coming across as well as it could and should, but anyway. So all of these pads are toast anyway. They will not be going back in there. The standard brake calipers, I think, are probably fine. So we are going to try reuse those. Obviously, I do plan to get a new banjos and everything else. But other than that, I don't think this is a bike I'm ever going to ride crazy fast or anything. So just kind of break them down as much as is possible and see what we can rebuild. So other than what I have done here, what I would really like to do is get these pistons out, but I don't think this is probably going to have to wait for another day because I more than likely do need to get a piston puller. I don't think I'm going to be able to get these out by hand. So the main reason for this deconstruction video is actually to take this off because we can rebuild this right now. So that's why I was draining it as much as is humanly possible. Well, maybe not humanly possible, but possible for me right now. What you want to do is just get a kind of a rag or paper towel or something underneath it, because this is going to leak a little more. Get off the old crush washers. I'm not overly worried about removing this right now, so we won't. And other than that, then this should just be the brake switch, which should release very similarly to the other side, and two Allens. So I'm just going to do the two Allens real quick. So just to show you what you want to remove to get this master cylinder off is, my God, the focus on this thing. These two here. And then we're also going to unplug the brake switch, those two guys right there. So I'm going to try hold this. It's going to be a nightmare. But these two guys should just pull away like so. And there you go. So then in that case, you don't have to worry about taking off the brake switch underneath the bike. And I'm tired, so I'm not going to. So I'm just going to pop these two out. For anyone who ever doubted how much you need to clean these things, look at the absolute scum inside in that. It is truly disgusting. One of the worst I have ever seen. Look at that. Ugh. Oh my God, it's rancid. So what we are left with is essentially, if you watch the video on the clutch master cylinder, is a very similar setup. I need to invest in some of those fancy softbox lights that other people have. But essentially it's very similar. So I will take this apart. We'll do all the cleaning and everything else, and we'll get another video out of this. So that's essentially how you take apart kind of the front calipers and whatnot. If you're just deconstructing a Honda Valkyrie, pretty easy to do actually. Other than that, one more thing that just is important to show you the stripping of. So the actual front brake line clips in here, then through this metal clip. So it's very similar to this, it won't be able to show you. It just happens to be there. You can just pull it through that. And then this is something that people used to love to do. I've seen a lot of older bikes. You basically have this little hard piece, T. So I will obviously be taking all of that off and just replacing this with a double banjo off the master cylinder and to two separate lines, one to each caliper, just because it's just a bit easier to get that as a replacement part. I'm going to order that from HEL Performance. So all that remains to strip this off is pop this off here, and then as you can see, these lines are actually loose from there down. So that will be that done. And then I will also be doing a video on removing the back wheel, checking the rear spline system, which also will probably include removing these exhausts once I get this kind of properly tied up. I don't have the bike lifted fully on it yet, and I don't have it ratchet strapped down, so I don't feel comfortable lifting up to get that rear brake off. The rear brake obviously also needs done, and then we'll also be doing the carbs. The engine turns over fine, but I'm going to drain all the fluids, including coolant oil, just because again I don't know how long it's been sitting fully. But if that brake fluid is anything to go by, I imagine a lot of the fluids are not good. I will make a video on, well, I'll probably put the spark plugs into the carb video, because those spark plugs are the easiest spark plugs I've ever had to take out from any bike. And then we also need to put a vapor rust into the tank, which I'll be doing. And yeah, then we should be hopefully getting closer to at least trying to start this behemoth. So that's the video. If you watched the Jigsaw rebuild series, this is kind of a lot more back like that. I'm not going to show, sorry, I am going to show everything in detail, even just the stripping of the bike, just because people enjoy that, and I kind of enjoyed, obviously I enjoyed doing it, so I'm just trying to show everyone the videos as I go. But yeah, I mean, honestly, the bike is in very good shape, like frame wise, rust wise, everything else. There's no rust on it. So the biggest jobs really are just the kind of the basics, the carb, the fuel tank. So your fuel, your air, your brakes. The tires are in good shape. I'm going to check the age on them, and we'll check them for any dry rotting and everything else when we have the wheels off. We can go through that in detail. We're going to check the wheel bearings. I'm going to measure the brake discs in case we need to change the front brake discs and the rear brake disc. That's not something I want to be taking a chance with. Obviously, it's a big, heavy bike. I'm going to look into any upgrades as well while I look for pistons. Is there any, better brakes you can put on these things on the front? I'm obviously a big fan. I always have been a big fan, if you've been following on the channel for a long time, into upgrades. And that includes the clutch slave cylinder. We'll have a look at that as well to see is there anything better that I can get. But yeah, this is just kind of another step in the journey of the Valkyrie. It's nice kind of ticking off jobs. And yeah, if you've watched, thank you very much for watching. As always, a very special thank you to all of my patrons, especially Grom Trooper 6189. Go give him a follow, because he sold me this bike and it is in way better shape than he made it out to be. He sent me on the box of parts. I have the airbox back now, so we're in a position that we can actually work towards a first start. And honestly, first start is the bulk of what needs doing. We obviously still need to do the suspension. I'm going to look into getting a better rear suspension, because I just don't like old suspension, and see is there any point in upgrading the front springs. I doubt there is, because this bike is so heavy on its own. They're probably already chunky, and I can always change that in the future too if I want to. But yeah, I appreciate all my patrons. That's basically what I'm getting at. And until next time, thank you very much for watching. This is more of a simple video, but like I said, I just want to be able to everyone to follow along on everything that I'm doing. So yeah, thanks again for watching. Adios. Outro crew. it's something I've been kind of tossing around in my head for a while, because I've, you know, the two cars we have over here are old, because obviously I don't want to be in debt for four-wheel vehicles, really. If I can help it, I would much rather be in debt for an Aprilia Tuono V4 factory. That probably won't happen either, though. But yeah, if it's something that you want to watch, I've been, you know, thinking about making like a Gorilla 2 channel, where I could maybe put in some of those car work videos, because I have a 99 Suburban, I've done a bit of work to that, and I have a 2004 Impala. We have a 2004 Impala and a Suburban. Yeah, so let me know, would you be interested in seeing any of those videos? Or I could throw other things in there as well, you know, other stuff I'm doing that is not bike related. This channel, I do want to keep bike related though. Even though I know I could add other stuff in here, I don't really want to. So yeah, let me know what you think. Bye, Outro Crew.